My name is Linda Carter. I am 38 years old. I live in a small apartment above a pharmacy in the city center. I work as a librarian at the public library. The library is old and quiet. It has tall wooden shelves filled with books. The windows are large and let in soft light during the day. I spend my days organizing books, helping people find what they need, and sitting at the front desk. Some days are very busy. Other days are very quiet. I like both kinds of days. I like the smell of old books. I like the silence. I like watching people read. My work is not difficult, but it is tiring. I stand for many hours. My feet hurt by the end of the day. My eyes get tired from reading small numbers on book spines, but I love what I do. Books make me happy. Quiet spaces make me calm. Most people who come to the library are kind. Some are students, some are elderly people looking for large print books, some are parents with small children. I know many of them by name. They smile at me. I smile back. But one man was different. His name was Thomas Reed. He came to the library often. He always borrowed mystery novels. One day he complained loudly that a book he wanted was missing. He said I did not organize the shelves properly. He said the library was messy and unprofessional. I felt my face get hot with embarrassment. I apologized even though it was not my fault. Someone else had borrowed that book. But Thomas did not listen. He walked out looking angry. Since that day, whenever I saw Thomas, I felt uncomfortable. I smiled politely, but I did not like seeing him. I tried to avoid helping him when he came to check out books. After a long week of work, I like to go to the community recreation center. The center has a swimming pool, a gym, and a relaxation room. My favorite place is the steam room. It is warm and quiet. The steam makes my skin feel soft. It helps me forget about work and tired feet. One Thursday evening, I closed my desk at the library and went home to change. I packed a small bag with my swimsuit, a towel, shampoo, and clean clothes. Then I walked to the recreation center. It was only 10 minutes away. When I arrived, the woman at the front desk greeted me. "Good evening, Mrs. Carter," she said with a smile. "Good evening, Jenny," I replied. "I really need to relax tonight." She handed me a locker key. I went into the women's changing room. It was clean with white tiles and blue lockers. I changed into my swimsuit and put on a robe. Then I walked toward the relaxation area. The air smelled like eucalyptus and lavender. I felt calm immediately. I opened the door to the steam room. Warm mist surrounded me. I could barely see the wooden benches. I found a spot and sat down carefully. The heat felt wonderful. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly. My shoulders relaxed. My mind became quiet. For the first time all week, I felt completely peaceful. Then the door opened. Cool air rushed in for a moment. I opened my eyes slightly. A woman entered. She had short gray hair and glasses. She sat on the bench across from me. She looked familiar, but I could not place her face. She smiled politely. "Good evening," she said. "Good evening," I replied quietly. We sat in silence. The steam surrounded us. Water dripped from the ceiling. It was perfectly quiet and calm. After about 15 minutes, I decided to take a shower. I stood up and said softly, "Have a nice evening." The woman smiled. You too. I left the steam room and walked to the shower area. The cool water felt refreshing after the heat. I washed my hair and stood under the water for a long time. When I finished, I dried off and went back to the changing room. There were many lockers and benches. Several towels hung on hooks. I found what I thought was my towel and dried my hair. The towel felt soft and clean. I got dressed, packed my bag, and felt ready to go home. As I walked toward the exit, I heard a voice behind me. "Excuse me, miss." I turned around. It was the woman from the steam room. She was standing near the lockers with a confused expression. "Yes?" I said. She smiled apologetically. "I think you may have taken my towel by mistake." I frowned. "My towel? I don't think so. I took it from the hook where I left it." The woman pointed gently at my bag. "Could you please check? I believe mine had my initials embroidered on the corner." I opened my bag. Inside was a white towel. I looked carefully at the corner. There were small blue letters stitched into the fabric. M.R. I felt my face turn red. "Oh no," I said. "I'm so sorry, I didn't notice." The woman smiled kindly. "It's perfectly all right. These things happen all the time. My name is Margaret Reed. That's M.R. I quickly handed the towel back to her. "I'm really sorry, Mrs. Reed. I wasn't paying attention." She took the towel with a gentle laugh. "Please, call me Margaret. And truly, it's no problem at all." I smiled weakly. "I'm Linda Carter." Margaret's eyes lit up with recognition. "Oh, you work at the library, don't you? I've seen you there many times." I nodded. "Yes, I'm the librarian." She smiled warmly. "You're wonderful at your job. You helped me find a book about gardening last month." I felt a little better. "Thank you. I'm glad I could help." We stood there for a moment. Then Margaret said, "Well, I hope you have a lovely evening, Linda." "You too, Margaret." I walked out of the center quickly. The night air was cool and fresh. I felt embarrassed but also wanted to laugh. I whispered to myself, "Linda, what were you thinking? You took someone's towel." When I got home, I made a cup of chamomile tea. I sat at my small kitchen table and thought about what happened. The whole thing felt silly now. I laughed quietly to myself. "Maybe one day this will be a funny story," I said aloud. I decided that tomorrow I would focus on work and try to forget about the towel incident. But I also thought maybe I should be more careful next time at the recreation center. Then I smiled. Or maybe I would just go back and see what happens. The next few days at the library were very busy. Many students came to study for exams. The reading tables were all full. I helped people find books, answer questions, and check out materials. I worked from morning until evening without much rest. My friend Rachel works at the coffee shop across the street from the library. She comes to visit me during her breaks. On Tuesday, she noticed me smiling for no reason. "Linda, what's so funny?" she asked. I looked at her and said, "You won't believe what happened to me at the recreation center." Then I told her the whole story, how I went to relax, how I met a woman in the steam room, and how I accidentally took her towel. Rachel laughed so hard she had to sit down. "Oh, Linda," she said between laughs, "only you could make a relaxing evening into an adventure." I smiled. It wasn't funny at the time, but now it is. For the next several days, life continued normally. I worked, read books during my lunch break, and went home tired each evening. But by Friday, I felt the need to relax again. My back hurt from standing. My eyes were tired from reading small text. I looked at the clock and thought, maybe I should go to the recreation center again. But then I hesitated. What if I run into Margaret again? What if it's awkward? I sat and thought about it. Then I said to myself, no, I can't avoid a nice place just because of one small mistake. And Margaret was very kind about it. That evening, I closed the library and went home to pack my bag. I made absolutely sure I had my own towel. I even wrote my initials on it with a marker, LC. I walked to the recreation center. The air outside was warm. When I arrived, Jenny at the front desk smiled. "Good evening, Mrs. Carter," she said. "Good evening," I replied, feeling a little nervous. She handed me the locker key. I went into the changing room, put on my swimsuit and robe, and took a deep breath. This time, everything will be simple and peaceful, I told myself. I went to the steam room again. The warm mist welcomed me. I looked around carefully. No Margaret in sight. I smiled with relief and sat down on the wooden bench. The heat surrounded me. After a few minutes, my body began to relax completely. I closed my eyes and listened to the sound of water dripping softly. The world outside disappeared. After about 20 minutes, I decided to go swimming. The pool was blue and calm. Only a few people were swimming slowly. I got in and felt my body become weightless. It was a wonderful feeling, quiet, peaceful, and refreshing. When I got out of the pool, I sat on a chair near the edge and wrapped my towel around my shoulders. I looked around, enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. Then suddenly I heard a familiar voice. "Linda, is that you?" I turned around. There she was, Margaret Reed, wearing a blue swimsuit and a friendly smile. For a moment I wanted to hide, but then I thought, no, this is fine. She's just a person. I smiled and said, "Hello, Margaret." She laughed gently. "I promise I'm not checking if you have the right towel this time." I felt my face turn a little red, but I laughed too. "I made absolutely sure this morning. I even wrote my initials on it." Margaret sat in the chair next to mine. "Good thinking. Maybe I should do the same with all my things." For the first time, I felt relaxed around her. Her smile seemed genuine and warm. Maybe she wasn't checking on me. Maybe she was just being friendly. We sat for a while and talked. She asked how work at the library was going. I said it was busy, but good. She told me she was recently retired from teaching high school English. She said she missed the students but enjoyed having more free time. "Maybe we both come here for the same reason," she said, "to escape from busy minds." I smiled. "Yes, maybe so. Books and students both need breaks." She laughed warmly. "Exactly." The conversation felt easy and natural. I realized I had never really talked to Margaret before. At the library, I was always busy helping people. Here, I was seeing a different side of her, relaxed, kind, and funny. After a while, I said, "I think I'll go back to the steam room now." She stood up too. "Me too, but don't worry. I'll keep track of my own towel this time. I laughed softly, and I'll keep track of mine. We both walked to the steam room together. The warm mist surrounded us again, and it felt peaceful. We didn't talk much inside. Sometimes silence is the best conversation. When I left to shower and change, I made absolutely certain I took the right towel. As I was combing my hair in front of the mirror, I saw Margaret again. She was packing her bag and smiled when she saw me. "Good news," she said cheerfully. "I still have my own towel." "Wonderful," I said, laughing. "Maybe I'm learning." We both walked out of the recreation center together. The evening air was cool and smelled like rain. Margaret said, "Would you like to get a cup of tea? There's a nice little cafe just down the street." I thought for a moment. Normally, I went straight home after relaxing, but tonight felt different. I wasn't tired. I felt comfortable and in a good mood. "All right," I said. "One cup of tea sounds nice." We walked to the cafe nearby. It was small and cozy with warm yellow lights in the windows. A waiter brought us 2 cups of herbal tea. We talked about simple things: books, gardening, the weather, our favorite places in the city. Margaret told me she loved mystery novels. She said she used to borrow them from the library all the time. "I remember now," I said. "You're the one who reads Agatha Christie." She smiled. "Yes, I've read almost all her books." Then her expression changed slightly. She looked a bit uncomfortable. "Linda, I need to apologize for something." I looked at her, surprised. "For what?" She took a breath. "A few months ago, I came to the library looking for a specific book. When you couldn't find it, I got frustrated and complained. I said the library was disorganized. I was rude. I'm very sorry about that." My eyes widened. "Wait, that was you?" She nodded, looking genuinely regretful. "Yes. I was having a terrible day and I took it out on you. It wasn't fair." I suddenly realized something. Wait, I thought that was Thomas Reed who complained that day. Margaret looked confused. "Thomas Reed? That's my son. Was he rude to you too?" I felt my face get warm. "Oh, yes. He complained loudly about a missing book once." Margaret closed her eyes and shook her head. "I'm so sorry. He can be difficult sometimes. He gets that from his father." Then she smiled sadly. "And apparently from me, too." I looked at her and saw genuine regret in her eyes. I said softly, "It's all right, Margaret. We all have bad days." She looked relieved. "Thank you for understanding. And thank you for always being so patient at the library. You're wonderful at your job." I smiled. "And you're very kind for apologizing. Not many people do that." We finished our tea and talked for another hour. The conversation felt easy and honest. When it was time to leave, Margaret said, "I really enjoyed this evening, Linda. Maybe we could do it again sometime?" I smiled. "I'd like that." We said goodnight and walked in different directions. As I walked home, I thought about how strange life can be. One small mistake, a mixed-up towel, had led to a real conversation and maybe even a new friendship. At home, I hung my towel carefully on the hook and looked at it for a moment. The initials LC were clearly visible. I smiled and whispered, "You're staying right here this time." Then I made myself a cup of tea and sat by the window. The city lights twinkled outside. I thought about Margaret, about the library, about the towel mix-up, and about how sometimes embarrassing moments can lead to something good. The next week went by smoothly. Work at the library was busy as usual. Students studied, elderly people browsed the large print section. Parents brought their children for story time. On Wednesday afternoon, the door opened and someone walked in. I looked up from the front desk. It was Margaret. She was carrying a small bag and smiled when she saw me. "Good afternoon, Linda," she said cheerfully. "Good afternoon, Margaret," I replied with a smile. She walked to the desk. "I came to return these mystery novels and pick up a new one. Do you have any recommendations?" I thought for a moment. "Have you read The Moonstone by Wilkie Collins?" Her eyes lit up. "No, I haven't. Is it good?" "It's one of the first detective novels ever written," I said. "I think you'll love it." I helped her find the book. She checked it out and then said, "By the way, are you going to the recreation center this week?" I smiled. I was thinking about Friday evening. "Perfect," she said. "Maybe I'll see you there. And don't worry, I'll label all my belongings this time." I laughed. Me too. When she left, I felt happy. It was nice to have someone to look forward to seeing. Friday evening came. I packed my bag, double-checked that I had the right towel, and walked to the recreation center. When I arrived, I saw Margaret sitting near the pool reading a magazine. She looked up, waved, and said with a grin, "Ah, the towel thief returns." I laughed and walked closer. "Careful, or I might take yours again." She smiled. "Not this time." I wrote my name in very large letters. Very, very large. We both laughed. The awkwardness from before was completely gone. Everything felt easy and comfortable between us now. We sat together in the steam room. The warm air surrounded us like a gentle blanket. Margaret said, "You know, I never used to like steam rooms. They seemed boring, but now they remind me of something funny." I smiled. "A mixed-up towel?" She nodded. "Exactly. A mixed-up towel and a new friend." I looked at her and said softly, "That's a lovely way to put it." We didn't talk much after that. The quiet felt good. Sometimes silence says more than words. After we left the steam room, we sat by the pool again. We ordered 2 glasses of sparkling water with lemon slices. Margaret looked at me thoughtfully and said, "It's interesting how small accidents can change things. One little mistake can bring 2 people together." I smiled and said, "Yes, sometimes a mistake isn't really bad. It's just unexpected." She nodded, "Like a story that starts wrong but ends right." We both smiled at that thought. When it was time to leave, we walked together to the exit. The night air was fresh and cool. Margaret said, "You know, Linda, I think I'll start visiting the library more often, not just for books." I smiled. "Just don't write your name on the furniture." She laughed. "No, but maybe I'll write it in your address book instead." I looked at her, a bit surprised by the kind words, but her face was warm and genuine. I laughed softly and said, "You talk a lot for someone who came to relax." She smiled. "Maybe, but I enjoy talking to you." We stood there for a moment in comfortable silence, watching the street lights glow against the dark sky. Then she said, "Good night, Linda." Good night, Margaret. When I reached home that night, I put my towel on the bathroom hook and smiled. I remembered everything: the steam, the mix-up, the cafe, the apologies, and the laughter. I thought about how strange and wonderful life can be. You go somewhere to rest and relax, and you come home with a friend instead. Before I went to bed, I looked in the mirror and said to myself, maybe taking the wrong towel was the right mistake after all. I turned off the light and lay down, still smiling. The next morning, I went to work early. The library smelled of old paper and fresh coffee from my thermos. Rachel came by as usual during her break. She looked at me carefully and said, "You look different, Linda. Happier." I smiled. I am. "Did something happen at the recreation center again?" she asked with a knowing look. I laughed. Yes, but this time no towels were stolen. She raised an eyebrow. "Are you absolutely sure?" I smiled. Completely sure. But something better happened. I made a friend. As I shelved books and helped patrons throughout the day, I felt lighter and more content than I had in months. Life hadn't changed in any dramatic way, just in small, simple ways. But sometimes the small things are what make life sweet. Over the following weeks, Margaret and I developed a comfortable routine. We met at the recreation center every Friday evening. Sometimes we went to the steam room, sometimes we swam in the pool. Always we ended the evening with tea at the little café down the street. We talked about everything: books we loved, places we'd traveled, mistakes we'd made, dreams we still had. Margaret told me about her years as a teacher. I told her about my quiet life among the books. We discovered we both loved rainy days, old movies, and lemon cake. One evening, Margaret brought a small wrapped package to the cafe. She placed it on the table between us with a shy smile. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it," she said. I carefully unwrapped the paper. Inside was a beautiful white towel. Embroidered on the corner in elegant blue thread were the letters L.C., librarian and friend. I felt tears suddenly spring to my eyes. "Margaret, this is beautiful," she smiled. "I wanted you to have a towel that's unmistakably yours, and I wanted you to know that you're not just the librarian to me anymore. You're my friend." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "You're my friend too, Margaret. Thank you." That night, when I got home, I hung the new towel carefully on the hook in my bathroom. I looked at the embroidered words and smiled. Librarian and friend. Yes, I thought. That's exactly who I am. Several months passed. Margaret and I continued our Friday evening routine. The recreation center staff got used to seeing us together. Jenny at the front desk would smile and say, "Good evening, ladies," whenever we arrived. One Friday in early autumn, Margaret didn't come. I waited by the pool for 30 minutes, checking my phone. No message. I felt worried. The next day, I went to the library and tried to focus on work, but I kept thinking about Margaret. During my lunch break, I decided to call her. She had given me her phone number weeks ago. A man answered the phone. "Reed residence." "Hello," I said. "This is Linda Carter. I'm a friend of Margaret's. Is she all right?" "She didn't come to the recreation center yesterday." There was a pause. Then the man said,
"This is Thomas, her son. My mother had a small fall yesterday. She's okay, but the doctor wants her to rest for a few days."
I felt my heart sink. "Oh no, is she in the hospital?" "No, she's home. She just needs to stay off her feet for a while." "Could I visit her?" I asked. "I'd like to make sure she's all right." Another pause. Then Thomas said, more warmly this time, "She'd probably like that very much. Let me give you the address." That afternoon after work, I stopped at a flower shop and bought a small bouquet of yellow roses, Margaret's favorite. Then I went to her house. It was a charming cottage with a neat garden in front. Thomas answered the door. He was a tall man in his 40s with kind eyes, very different from the angry man I remembered from the library. "You must be Linda," he said with a gentle smile. "Please come in. My mother has been asking about you." He led me to the living room. Margaret was sitting in a comfortable chair with her foot elevated on a cushion. When she saw me, her face lit up. "Linda, you came!" I rushed over and carefully hugged her. "Of course I came. I was so worried when you didn't show up yesterday." She smiled. "I'm sorry. I should have called you. I just felt so silly. I tripped over my own garden hose." I sat down next to her and handed her the flowers. "These are for you, yellow roses for a speedy recovery." Her eyes filled with tears. "You remembered my favorite. Thank you, dear friend." Thomas brought us tea, and the three of us sat together talking. I learned that Thomas had been stressed about work when he complained at the library that day. He apologized sincerely for his rudeness. "He was having the worst week," he said. "But that's no excuse for being unkind. I'm truly sorry." I smiled. "It's all right. Your mother already apologized on your behalf. And honestly, I understand bad days." We talked for over an hour. When it was time for me to leave, Margaret held my hand and said, "Thank you for coming, Linda. You've become so important to me." I squeezed her hand gently. "You've become important to me too, Margaret. Rest well, and I'll see you at the recreation center when you're ready." 2 weeks later, Margaret was fully recovered. We met at the recreation center on Friday evening as usual. When I saw her walking toward the pool with only a slight limp, I felt relieved and happy. "You're back," I said, hugging her carefully. "I'm back," she confirmed, "and I missed this. I missed our Fridays." We settled into our usual routine: steam room, swimming, then tea at the café. As we sat with our cups of herbal tea, Margaret said something that surprised me. "Linda, I've been thinking. I don't have much family nearby. Thomas is busy with work. My other relatives live far away, but these past months with you have felt like having family again." I felt warmth spread through my chest. "I feel the same way, Margaret. I live alone. I don't have siblings. My parents passed away years ago. But our Fridays, they've given me something I didn't know I was missing." She smiled with tears in her eyes. "Family isn't always about blood, is it?" "No," I agreed. "Sometimes it's about who shows up, who cares, who makes time for you." Margaret reached across the table and held my hand. "Then I'm glad we're family, Linda." "Me too," I said softly. We sat there for a moment, just holding hands across the table in the warm cafe, both of us smiling. A year passed. Margaret and I continued our Friday routine without fail. Rain or shine, winter or summer, we met at the recreation center. We had become such regulars that the staff saved our favorite chairs by the pool. One Friday evening in spring, as we sat in the steam room, Margaret said something unexpected. "Linda, I have a question for you." "What is it?" I asked. "Would you like to go on a trip with me? Just a weekend. There's a small bed and breakfast by the coast. I've always wanted to go, but I never wanted to go alone." I felt surprised, but also excited. "A trip? Really?" She smiled. "Yes, we could relax, read books, walk on the beach, eat good food. What do you think?" I thought about it for only a moment. "I think that sounds wonderful." 2 weeks later, we drove to the coast together. The bed and breakfast was a charming white building overlooking the ocean. Our rooms were next to each other, both with large windows facing the sea. We spent the weekend walking on the beach, collecting seashells, reading in comfortable chairs on the porch, and eating delicious meals. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. We laughed until our sides hurt. We sat in comfortable silence watching the waves. On our last evening there, we sat on the porch watching the sunset. The sky turned orange and pink and purple. Margaret turned to me and said, "This has been one of the best weekends of my life." I smiled. "Mine too." She looked at the ocean thoughtfully. "You know, a year ago, I was lonely. My son was always busy. My friends had all moved away or passed on. I felt invisible. And then I met you because of a silly towel mix-up." I laughed. "The most important towel mix-up of our lives." She nodded. "Exactly. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if you hadn't taken my towel that day. We might never have talked. We might have just been strangers passing each other at the library." "I'm glad I took your towel," I said. She laughed. "Me too." We sat together, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. The air grew cool, but neither of us wanted to go inside. This moment felt too precious to end. When we returned home, life continued as normal. I went to work at the library. Margaret came to visit often, now not just for books, but to have lunch with me. We met every Friday at the recreation center. Our friendship had become the most constant, comfortable part of both our lives. One day, about 18 months after we first met, I was organizing books in the mystery section when I found an old Agatha Christie novel that had been mis-shelved. I smiled, thinking of Margaret. I decided to set it aside for her. When she came in later that afternoon, I handed it to her. "I found this and thought of you," I said. She looked at the title and her eyes lit up. "Oh, I've been looking for this one. How did you know?" "I pay attention," I said with a smile. She hugged the book to her chest. "You're the best friend I've ever had, Linda. Do you know that?" I felt tears suddenly form in my eyes. "You're mine too, Margaret." She looked at me seriously. "I mean it. I had friends before, but they were surface friends. People I knew but didn't really know. You're different. You really see me. You really care." "Because you really see me too," I said. "You make me feel like I matter." "You do matter," she said firmly. "You matter so much." We stood there in the quiet library, two middle-aged women who had found something precious, Real, honest friendship built on a foundation of a silly mistake and nurtured by weekly tea and genuine care. Now, 3 years have passed since that first towel mix-up. I am 41 years old. Margaret is 65. Our friendship has only grown stronger with time. We still meet every Friday at the recreation center without fail. We still go to the same cafe for tea afterward. We still talk about books and life and everything in between. But now we do more together, too. We go to the theater. We take day trips to nearby towns. We celebrate birthdays and holidays together. Thomas has become my friend, too. He joins us for dinner once a month. Last week, Margaret gave me a gift. It was a photo album. Inside were pictures from our 3 years of friendship. Photos from the recreation center, from our weekend at the coast, from various cafes and parks and libraries. On the first page, she had written, "To Linda, thank you for taking my towel. It was the best mistake either of us ever made. Love, Margaret." I cried when I read it. Happy tears. Today is Friday. I finish my work at the library and pack my bag. Inside is the special towel Margaret gave me, the one with LC, librarian and friend, embroidered on it. I walk to the recreation center as the sun begins to set. The air is warm. The sky is turning pink. When I arrive, Margaret is already there, sitting by the pool reading a mystery novel. She looks up, sees me, and waves with a bright smile. "There you are," she says. "I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost." I laugh. "Never. I always know where to find you." We go to the steam room together. The warm mist surrounds us. We sit in comfortable silence, each lost in our own thoughts, but together in the same space. After a while, Margaret says, "Do you ever think about that first day, when I accused you of taking my towel?" I smile. "All the time." "Me too," she says. "I think about how close we came to just being strangers forever. If I hadn't said something, if you had been too embarrassed to come back, we might never have become friends." "But we did," I say, "because you were kind about it, and because I decided to come back instead of hiding." She nods. "Sometimes the bravest thing is just showing up again after you've made a mistake." We sit quietly for another moment. Then I say, "Thank you, Margaret." "For what?" "For being my family, for making my life less lonely, for seeing me." She reaches over and squeezes my hand. "Thank you for the same." Later, we sit in our usual cafe with our usual tea. The waiter knows our order by heart now. He brings it without us having to ask. Margaret tells me about a new mystery series she's discovered. I tell her about a funny incident at the library. We laugh together. We plan our next weekend trip, this time to visit a historic mansion that's been turned into a museum. When it's time to leave, we walk out together into the cool evening air. We say goodnight at the corner where our paths split. "See you next Friday?" Margaret asks. "Always," I reply. I walk home through the quiet streets. The city lights twinkle. The air smells like spring flowers. When I get home, I hang my special towel on the hook and look at it. The embroidered letters still look perfect. LC, librarian and friend. I smile and whisper, "Thank you for getting mixed up. Best mistake I ever made." Then I make myself a cup of tea and sit by the window. I think about Margaret, about our friendship, about how one small accident changed my entire life for the better. People always say to avoid making mistakes, but sometimes a mistake is exactly what you need. Sometimes taking the wrong towel leads you to the right person. I learned that loneliness can end in unexpected ways. I learned that friendship can bloom at any age. I learned that showing up, even when you're embarrassed, is always worth it. Most importantly, I learned that family isn't just the people you're born with. Family is the people who choose you, the people who stay, the people who make time for tea on Friday evenings. And I found my family in a steam room because of a towel, because of a mistake that turned into the best thing that ever happened to me. Thank you for reading Linda's story. Remember, sometimes the wrong choice leads to the right place. Sometimes a mistake is just the beginning of something beautiful. And sometimes the best friendships start with the smallest accidents.